Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise.
Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Hannah Olson and I live in Minnesota with my husband and our 3 young children. I'm also pregnant with our 4th and due at the end of January, which is exciting. And I love sharing about all things motherhood, homemaking, and homeschooling. Today's video is on that homeschooling topic. Again, I know it's that time of year when we're all really ramping up, or maybe you've already started your homeschool year. And today I wanted to talk about the whole planning side of homeschool, or our general approach to being excited about a new school year, looking at and researching different curriculum options, trying to decide on what we want to do as a family. That's what I want to talk about today. And we're going to talk about how to approach that whole process from a more realistic and practical standpoint without losing your vision and your spark of creativity and excitement about the whole thing. Basically, I want to talk about balancing all of that homeschool inspiration with reality. So today I wanted to share with you several tips. Well, multiple tips. It's about 8 tips. I have my laptop here in front of me, but I wanted to share ways that I approach all of this excitement and inspiration surrounding homeschooling and all of the information overload and the wishes and hopes and dreams I have for a new school year with reality, because we all can get either overwhelmed and sad or discouraged, or we can get so like hyped up on all of the excitement and things that are offered out there that we might make decisions that won't serve us and our family well later on. A quick little caveat, I am learning right there alongside you guys. All of these tips are things that I'm continuing to learn how to implement in our family and in our homeschool journey, but I wanted to share them with you and hopefully give you some encouragement and inspiration that I've learned along the way, and then things that I am striving to do as well. My first tip is to remember to personalize it for yourself and for your own family. Your style, your kids' personalities, and taking that into account will affect a lot of the decisions you make, and also their learning styles and their learning needs. Your homeschool is going to look different from your best friend's homeschool, or maybe a woman you spoke with at church or at homeschool co-op. And that is totally normal and expected, because God gave you, first of all, you're different than all other moms out there. You're a unique person. But then God gave you your own unique, specific children, and they are not the same as someone else's children. So I just want to always remind myself of that and encourage you that God gave you your specific children, and they are different from anyone else, and that will really require you to personalize your homeschool journey and your homeschool mornings and routines and curriculum choices for your own family's needs. My next tip, my second tip, is to check your actual calendar. And I know that sounds funny, but I struggle with this. All of the things sound really good about this time of year. All of the co-ops, all of the activities, private lessons and groups you can join, maybe mom activities or groups that you could join that don't even involve your kids. And we have to always come back to a place of, if we truly are prioritizing home education for our kids and for our family's lifestyle, we do need to check our actual calendar, what is truly going to be expected of us, and what we really think is going to be feasible every day of the week. I'll give you a little example. We've been involved in a Bible study called CBS, Community Bible Study, for years now, and we've done BSF, Bible Study Fellowship, in the past too. And I made the hard decision this year to not be involved in that group, because we really need to focus on 5 days a week homeschool mornings here at home. And maybe there are some groups or activities or co-ops you've been wanting to join, like multiple co-ops, and you realize looking at your actual calendar that that would mean you are away from the house 3 mornings a week or 4 mornings a week, or maybe every single lunchtime you'd be gone. And maybe that, realistically speaking, is not what you want for your family. It's just so easy and exciting to say yes to all of the things out there. So I want to give you permission and give myself permission to say no to some of the otherwise good or wonderful sounding things out there, because we do need to check our actual calendar. My husband is deployed right now, and I'm also expecting a baby at the end of January, and so those are things that are going to affect our school year and our school calendar. So there are some things that I have said no to that I know would be really fun to do in the wintertime, because we have these big things coming up, like my husband coming home and we want to spend time with him, and welcoming a newborn into the family. So I want to encourage you and myself to always be checking our actual calendar to see what big events are going to be coming up, maybe things like birthday parties or weddings, or maybe there's a more difficult season or situation that's coming up for you during this academic year, and you just need to keep tabs on that or be aware of what you are asking of your family and of your daily schedule. Another quick example, right now I like to stack our extracurriculars as much as I can into one day of the week, and that might change and shift as the kids get older, but I like to have we drive an hour away for Sophie's dance classes as well as Soren's taekwondo, his martial arts, and so I like to stack those into the same day of the week so that when we're making that 1 hour drive, we just have a big afternoon one day a week instead of sprinkling a lot of extracurriculars throughout the week. I know that's not always something we can do, but I'm trying to do it as best as I can. It worked really well for us last year to just have one big day of the week, and then the other days were more of a normal looking homeschool day, and I'm looking forward to us doing that again this year. So that's just an example of a way that I try to look at our calendar, try not to exhaust ourselves, but try to give us some fun extracurriculars too. Here's my next tip. Don't plan for your fantasy self. And I believe this is a term that was either coined or used by Dawn, the minimal mom, who talks about decluttering and organizing your house. And when she talks about decluttering, she often mentions how we've bought things in the past that are for our fantasy self. So perhaps it's workout items like weights and things like that when we never work out, but we've bought those because we wanted to be that person. And there are just a lot of examples of that, aren't there? Even in the homeschool world, and I'm applying this to homeschooling specifically, we don't want to plan out our homeschool year only for our fantasy self. Now, it is okay and good to have these notes about, hey, if this is going really well for us this year, let's add this in, or wouldn't it be fun if we did this kind of a field trip, or halfway through the year, I'd really like to add in this extra curriculum or project. I am not saying don't have any lofty goals and don't have any fun plans or aspirations. Not at all. But I have found myself falling into the trap of planning a homeschool year in years past for my fantasy self. And boy, it looks good on paper, and it is so much fun to plan it all out. I'm also not saying don't have anything that will challenge you, because it's really good to have things that will challenge us throughout this school year. But I have fallen into the trap in the past of getting really excited and planning a homeschool year or at the start of the year, or buying the curriculum especially for my fantasy self, not for my real life family, not for my real life capabilities or bandwidth or even my teaching style, but just planning a year based off of what sounds awesome and what sounds inspirational and exciting, and sometimes just plain what someone else has mentioned. But I have personally found over the years that we do have to take a step back and be humble and be honest with ourselves. And that is hard. It is really hard, at least for me, personally speaking, to admit that I might not have the capability or capacity right now for yet another curriculum. I will give you an example. I saw that All About Reading, or All About Learning, the curriculum company, has come out with something called All About Math. And while we are loving Christian Light Math, which I talked about in my second grade and kindergarten curriculum videos recently, and the mathematical reasoning workbooks too, I love the All About Reading that we've done, and I feel like All About Math would be really awesome, a really great curriculum to do. But I had to take a step back and really be humble and honest with myself about what I think I can handle this school year. And at least the All About Reading lessons are pretty intense in terms of just one-on-one work with the student, with your child. And I just, at this point, don't want to do that intense of a curriculum for math with my kids. I love the independent work aspect of Christian Light and how minimal and simple it is. And so yes, there are so many good things that you could say yes to, but sometimes it's not going to work for you and for your family. And looking ahead at the calendar of your school year, at the different seasons coming up for your family, you just might have to say no to a really good sounding curriculum and pick something that is maybe more simple, but that is okay. And you can still serve and educate your children really well on a less flashy and less fun or intense sounding curriculum. Another way to word this point is don't plan your homeschool year straight off of Pinterest. That is a really fun rabbit hole to go down, and we all love looking probably at different homeschool room inspiration photos, and maybe you even like looking at different lesson plans and what other families are doing. And while that can be very helpful and very inspirational, I've done a lot of that because it has given me ideas and given me help and encouragement. I really encourage you not to plan or to start the planning process for your homeschool year right out of Pinterest, because if we're using that as our springboard for inspiration, a lot of what's on Pinterest might be unattainable. And while other families might be able to pull off the picture perfect homeschool rooms and all of that environment and setup and routine, know that a lot of that is not real life, and it can be very discouraging to plan directly from Pinterest. I learned that with planning my wedding 11 and a half years ago. Well, we've been married 11 and a half years, so 12 and a half years ago. When I was planning my wedding, I at first started to look at Pinterest, and you soon find out that a lot of those wedding dresses or inspiration pictures aren't even something you could find online. Like, you can't go and purchase that dress online. So anyway, a lot of Pinterest is not real life. It is lovely, and I'm not saying don't be inspired, but don't base your homeschool inspiration and your planning for your year right off of that. I would even caution you and myself not to plan our homeschool year or routines or curriculum choices right off of another mama's YouTube channel or a conversation you've had with another mom. It can be really tempting too, but I just wanted to encourage you. We all have our fantasy self and what we would do in an ideal, in a dream world, and it's really exciting and fun to think about, but we can't get lost there. We do have to bring ourselves back to reality. My next tip is about combating those feelings of wanting to copy and paste what another homeschool mom is doing. For me, that is having a Google spreadsheet on my Google Drive that I call something really boring, like ongoing homeschool recommendations. And that is where I throw all of the ideas and all of the information and recommendations that I get or see. I pull up this spreadsheet a few times a year during those more important planning or reevaluating times of the year, like planning for the school year or maybe mid-year planning. But besides that, I only pull it up quickly to write down a recommendation or some awesome sounding curriculum or idea that I have heard throughout the year. I'm not constantly reading this spreadsheet and every night reassessing, am I doing what's right? Did I pick the right curriculum? But I use it as just kind of a brain dump list. If you've heard of those, you just dump everything down onto paper or here onto the computer that you've heard. And it also helps me to really fight those feelings of overwhelm, because especially if you're new to homeschooling, but I personally feel like it's all the time, we are just inundated with information and even things like ads and everyone else's opinions and just countless choices for curriculum and what we could or should, I should have that in air quotes, what we should be doing with our kids for their academics. And I love having a place where I can put all of those ideas down and then kind of forget about them or revisit it later. And maybe I'll show you someday, but I have basically several titles or headings across the top, and then I do have different tabs across the bottom for different school subjects. So I have one tab for math, one for language arts and reading, one for science, or one for social studies, things like that. So I start out just by listing what the curriculum is, like let's say all about reading, because I did hear about all about reading from a couple different, I think, YouTube moms that I follow, or just, yeah, I think it was YouTube moms that I follow. And so then I actually write down the person's name who recommended it in case I ever want to reach out to them, or it just helps me know who recommended it, because sometimes that helps you remember a conversation you might have had with them, or you can go look up, I guess, a YouTube video where they shared about it. So I put their name. I also have a heading for other notes. So if the person said, boy, this is an amazing curriculum, but it's really good for about 4th grade and up, I do have a lot of different ideas that we are not currently using that are on my spreadsheet for higher grade levels. And so that really has helped me to combat those feelings of, oh, this mom is doing this curriculum, I need to go home and order it. I just put it in there, and then I can really do my research if I want to and compare and contrast what different people have recommended, or maybe something I saw in passing in an ad, like I mentioned. So hopefully that idea might help some of you if you don't already have a spreadsheet. I'm not a huge spreadsheet person. I don't have tons and tons of spreadsheets, but that is one that has been so helpful. A brief note before I get to my last few tips for you. I think it is all right to admit that my homeschool plans for my imaginary pretend children in an imaginary world would look probably different from the homeschool plans I have for my real life children that God has given me. That does not mean that I'm not grateful for the children God has given me, the exact children I have. I think that should go without saying, but it's okay to have some feelings of, oh man, I would love to do that in a dream or fantasy world. But then you bring yourself back to reality and you really lean into the purpose that is placed before you, and that is serving the exact learning styles, needs, personalities, ability levels of the exact children you have. And that there's so much joy and purpose to be found in that, and it's exciting and it's a challenge to really tweak and hone your homeschool goals and plans and curriculum choices for your own children. So I wanted to just tell you, it's okay to admit, all right, in an ideal world, I would do this, or maybe like a dream world, I would do this, but in real life, here's what works for us. So many things in life are easier and more beautiful and are more successful in theory, and that is okay. We just need to step back and acknowledge that. As a former elementary teacher, I have learned you might have the most beautiful behavior chart all made and hung up for a Monday morning, or a lovely science lesson all planned out, and it just might not pan out. And I get it. That can be very discouraging and frustrating because the plans you had on paper or in your mind just did not happen in reality. And it can be discouraging to realize almost immediately that tweaks or changes need to be made. I still struggle with those feelings of frustration or feeling down when my perfectly laid plans don't come to fruition seamlessly in real life. But I've found over the years, both as an elementary teacher and now my years as a homeschooling mom, that the best approaches in schooling are things that are truly sustainable. And that leads me to my next point. My next point is to start and continue with things that are truly sustainable for you and for your family, because learning comes in so many little layers for us and for our kids. And if we are doing small little bits of important work, even tiny chunks of it, layer after layer, day after day, then we really are moving the needle forward. Is that the phrase? Maybe pushing the needle forward? Anyway, we are making wonderful change. We are moving forward with progress and with the learning that we so desire for our kids and for ourselves. And so whatever is sustainable for you as the teacher and for you to implement for your children, that is what is going to make a really big difference over time. Not flashy new ideas all of the time, although I love personally infusing fun new ideas, and who knows, maybe we'll start a fun new cursive curriculum halfway through this year. But whatever is actually sustainable, something you're going to be able feasibly to pull out of the cupboard day after day, again and again, that is going to make all the difference in your child's learning. It's hard sometimes to admit that something isn't going to be sustainable, and that's why I've really pared down our homeschool approach over the years, because years ago I always wanted to buy the fun new learning gadgets, or we're always attracted to what's shiny and new and fun and exciting. And so we definitely get that from things like ads, but then just also things we've heard about. But coming back to what will truly be day-to-day sustainable for you as the teacher and for your kids to do every day, basically, this school year will really make a huge difference in everyone's learning. This next point goes along with my earlier point about not planning just for your fantasy self, and that is to evaluate your energy levels and your natural tendencies. It's true that we can and should probably want to increase our capacity for things over time and rise to challenges over time. And I've found for me, every time we add a new child to the family, I am stretched and challenged to increase my capabilities and my capacity and bandwidth. However, a lot of personalized individual homeschool family plans come down to what you personally require. You know yourself best. You know if you can handle something like getting up early in the mornings to do math with one individual child before the rest of the house wakes up, or maybe you need to sleep in. Maybe you know your own bandwidth and what your body truly needs. Maybe you need that morning time for working out or doing other kinds of things like computer work, or you need that peaceful time to read a devotion or to just slowly wake up before the rest of the family wakes up. There are all sorts of ideas out there, and they don't all have to be yours. Maybe it is a more hard season for your family. For us right now, my husband is deployed, and so I am the sole parent here, and there are a lot of demands on my time, and I just feel like my role as the only parent here is a lot more demanding. Plus, my 3 children are quite young, and I am pregnant, and I'm not saying this to complain or whine. Life is good and full and busy. However, I know my capacities right now, and while I would love to do a lot more someday schooling during our 2-hour quiet time, I have been really desperately needing that time to take a nap, especially during the first trimester. And then I also need it for my mental health. As the only parent here, I need that space and that break to have that time and rest to myself, because I'm an introvert. I need a little bit of quiet time. So we do have a 2-hour quiet time, and I'm not utilizing it maybe as fully as another homeschool mom might recommend using it. But for now, this is what is serving our family in this more demanding season. I have been doing some homeschool lessons with Sophie and Soren, my 2nd grader and kindergartner, during quiet time, maybe just for a brief period of time, like 15-20 minutes if we needed to wrap up a math lesson or do a spelling lesson or practice some reading. But I guard quiet time pretty strictly, and it serves all of us very well. But I just wanted to mention that as an example. For my own energy and stress levels, I require this quiet time whenever possible during the day, and we pretty much do it every day. So you'll have to evaluate what your own family requires, what your own body requires. I've also heard of a lot of homeschool moms out there, and maybe I'll be one someday, who reads during meals to the children. It sounds wonderful to me, but I'm always so hungry around meal times. I need to eat a good hot lunch. I can't just snack later, and I need breakfast usually around the same time as the kids do, and I'm trying to eat breakfast before the kids do. It worked really well for us this morning, so I could really jump into morning time, our morning basket, without me needing to be chewing. But you have to really assess what your body needs and what your family needs, and that will help you make some of those decisions about your own homeschool routine. Here's my second to last tip. I heard someone named Amy Sloan interviewed in the past about homeschooling, and she just had so many good points. One really stuck with me, and that is not to treat homeschooling like a vending machine. And I would personally include, and I'm sure she does too, parenting and motherhood in there. So when you treat homeschooling like a vending machine, that is assuming that if you put the right formula in, you input all the correct things, then out on the other side of this vending machine come the perfect product. And the perfect product is something like wonderful learning or the perfect child or the perfect family atmosphere. We think that if we do all these things just right and we have the perfect formula, the exact dream formula, then everything will turn out perfectly in the end. And that's just not how real life works. We have to remember that we are not the ones ultimately in control. It's really hard to have open hands about that, and Amy shared though that we will always be let down if we put our hope in our own efforts and in the outcome. So for those of us who are Christians, we can remember to put our identity and our hope in Jesus. He loves our children way, way more than we do, which is mind-blowing to think about. But we can just trust in him and leave the outcome up to him. And I feel like that is the freeing dose of reality that we really need in our homeschool planning, because it does not boil down to picking one perfect curriculum choice that will suddenly make all the difference and you'll have a perfect child at the end of it, or a perfect education at the end of it. You can get a really good education. You can give your children an amazing education off of any number of different curricula choices out there. So that has been really freeing for me to reflect on. And it takes some of the pressure off of choosing the perfect curriculum or making sure that your routine is perfectly written down or perfectly scripted out, or your time blocks are perfect for your day before even starting your homeschool year. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can just start, as my friend Sherry over at Our Life Homeschooling has shared. You can just begin. You truly can. And you saw that in my vlog of our first day of school. A lot of the pressure has been taken off of choosing what is perfect, and it just comes down to doing what is sustainable and what is effective for your own family. My final tip is this. It's a quote I heard the other day. It is to be stubborn about your goals, but flexible about your methods. I don't know who said it or if it's from a book or something, but I just love it so much. The flexibility of homeschooling can serve us very, very well. If you stay consistent with your overarching homeschool goals, and they can be challenging and fun and exciting and inspirational, but you combine that with sustainable systems for your family and really solid curriculum choices that you have personally chosen that work for your own specific kids and your teaching style, then you are going to get great results. We will all benefit from being stubborn about our goals, but flexible about our methods. And I think it really does come down to that. And of course, to trusting Jesus in this whole process. Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you for being here and for watching. I hope it was helpful or encouraging to you. I know it was a longer sit-down, chatty type of video, more abstract, where we're talking about ideas instead of just me holding up a specific curriculum book or something, but I do hope it was useful for you. I would love to hear down below how you stay grounded in reality during your own homeschool planning process or during the year too. How do you approach homeschooling without losing the spark and the fun and the joy, but also without trying to be someone else or reach for things that are not feasible and landing in piles of discouragement? How do you do it? I would love to hear down below. If you like this kind of video, please give it a thumbs up, and I would be so honored if you would choose to stick around and subscribe. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, I share about all things motherhood, homemaking, and homeschooling. I have a really exciting announcement real quick. My online motherhood mindsets and homemaking systems course called the Present Mama Playbook is actually open for enrollment for the fall session right now, just for a few more days, and I would be so excited to have you on board for this fall session. We've run many sessions of this course in the past, and I don't open it for enrollment all the time, but I always love hearing about how it has encouraged and helped mamas to climb out of feelings of overwhelm in parenting and motherhood, in their own perspectives towards it all, and in household tasks. So I'll leave a link down below in the description box where you can learn more, and I would love to see you in the course this fall. Thanks again for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you in my next one.
Yesterday